How's it going, fellow Starlings? Welcome to a brand new Stargirl Season 2, Episode 2 breakdown, review, recap, and yes, this episode was yet another very decent one in my opinion, and I know some people, just going off the feedback of the first episode, lots of you are enjoying it. Some of you are calling it a slow burner, which I wouldn't disagree with, but you know, as they say, slow burners burn longer rather than a candle that burns bright and fast, and trust me, it's not that this season isn't without its bright candles, but it's kind of like a slow burning bright candle at the same time. Now, in this episode, what I mean by that is, like, for example, the first episode, we didn't get introduced to Shade, the Shade, and in this episode, we most certainly got that. We got a lot more Eclipso teasers in this episode, and a whole bunch more to talk about. So before we get into this review, guys, of course, go ahead and like this video, only if you're going to enjoy it. I'd really appreciate that, just to help feed that algorithm, and of course, subscribe if you want to stay up to date with Stargirl in-depth breakdowns just like this. So let's start right at the beginning, of course, and that is with the girls just want to have fun opening song with Dragon King's wife, aka Cindy's stepmom, having a ball of a time, kind of feeling liberated, as you might understand, after Dragon King's death. Which you can't blame her, because being in that situation with Dragon King and then having a daughter like Cindy, it's just, it's not gonna end so great. But she's also letting loose through destroying kitchen plates and God knows what else, but that is when Cindy walks in saying, "Hi, Mom," but also she flexes Eclipso because she says diamonds are a girl's best friend. And in this moment, you can see that Eclipso seems to have some kind of control over her, or something's going on, because you see that similar light that just appears in one eye. That is a way for Eclipso to sow those seeds of doubt and corruption, readying them up to be absorbed. But one of the great things about this episode as well, of course, is the Green Lantern story. So a lot of you guys enjoyed that in episode 1. We were very slightly teased with it, with Jade, or should I say Jenny, getting her Green Lantern battery back. But that was just a little tease with that fight. Today, we finally got into some constructs with Todd's car and other things like that. She was flying, for crying out loud. So let's dive into that. We start off in Wisconsin with her, and Jenny's getting ready to leave her home for children because she's reached a certain age where they don't really support you anymore. She gets given a tin that says menthol lozenges over it, but like, lo and behold, there was a Green Lantern ring in there, of course. But what I liked about this scene as well, it very much so set up her personality with that care home worker saying, a little advice for out there in the world: don't try so hard to be perfect. You don't have to be for people to like you. And it's a little annoying. Now, that can kind of be seen in this episode, which I didn't take as annoying, but she was making pancakes for Pat and everybody, like breakfast was served, and she just seems to be like, I don't think it's necessarily her really trying hard to be liked, but you can definitely see some of those little personality traits coming out in this episode. But within that tin, of course, is a car which belonged to her brother. She seems to be very estranged from her brother, and that's definitely going to tie into this season and her story, which, you know, we will get into a little bit later in this review. But also, of course, is the pouch with her father's ring. And this moment was brilliant. I bet lots of people are salivating at this moment, because the countless fans been waiting for a Green Lantern ring to fly around like this. Outside the Snyder Cut, we haven't even got it with Diggle yet. I know we've still got that Supergirl episode to go, but other than that, this is it. Like, this is finally what people have been wanting to see, and personally, I'm very happy with it. Obviously, Jenny, with what they get into in this episode, just like her character in the comics, she doesn't necessarily need to rely on that Green Lantern battery at all. It really just stems from her. Not that I saw a little star on her hand or anything like that. I like how in adaptations, obviously, they're trying to remain faithful to her, but also not, you know, copy and paste it to a T. But, you know, it's a nice way to start off this story. I loved how the ring ignites with green, and then the theme music was very wonderful, heroic, and kind of like this descriptive term I said a lot in season 1. It just feels very like E.T. adventurous, not a kids kind of thing, Disney Channel. It's like the spirit of adventure that comes with the ET kind of vibes, and I feel like Stargirl really kind of encapsulates that perfectly with just this spirit that is really consistent throughout the season. But of course, there was kind of a little prequel flashbacky moment, because that led us to present day, of course, with how it was the aftermath of their little battle in the kitchen, and you see all of this damage, which is just crazy. We can't forget that the staff has a little personality, so I like how it was like a little dog trying to just kind of bark back at the ring. She introduces herself saying the ring belonged to her father. Pat reveals that that was Alan Scott, the Green Lantern, and she said that the ring led her here, and she introduces herself. She knows all about Pat. She even is in awe of Pat, recognizing that he's striped, seeing that he's a legend, calls him a mechanical genius. But this is where these seeds get sown in Courtney, where she's not necessarily feeling a little bit left out, but she's not a legacy, and in season 1 that was a huge thing for her. She wanted to be Starman's daughter, and I kind of got into this a little bit last episode, but with her trying to prove and be vigilant with, you know, kind of maintaining the JSA patrol and how she really wanted to fulfill her role. That was a little bit of that coming out in episode 1, but now another legacy, the daughter of Alan Scott himself, has appeared. Kind of makes her feel a little bit envious in a way, because initially, you know, Jenny assumes that she must be Starman's daughter, but oh no, that isn't the case. Well, Pat taught you, yeah, you know, there's a lot of that going on where Courtney just probably feels like, oh great, you're perfect. But that's another thing I liked how they played in this episode. You know, it couldn't be any more ironic, really, because Jade does not, well, Jenny, I keep saying Jade, but Jenny doesn't view herself as perfect at all. Jenny stays in Courtney's room. We get another picture of her and Todd once again. Well, he's Obsidian from the comics, but it's kind of like, oh, what's going on with him? Later on in this episode, she did say that she was hoping the ring would lead her to him, so that will still very much so be a story for her that's developing throughout the season, I'm sure. I'm wondering if they were in this iteration. You never know at the end of the day with what adaptations are going to do to a T, but for example, maybe her mother did flee kind of after giving birth to them, which just left both Todd and Jenny with Alan Scott, but when Alan Scott died, they were just kind of left with no one, so maybe they were separated and she never knew where her brother was. I'm guessing that is the route they're going down. So Courtney's suspicions are obviously somewhat unfounded, because at the end of the day, I can see where she's coming from in one angle, but at the same time, it's kind of like a hypervigilance around the situation with how she's saying, how do we know she's really Green Lantern's daughter? And Pat tries to fill that in by saying, you know, the JSA didn't talk about their kids a lot to protect them, obviously, but she does use some evidence of her own, saying, well, the cosmic staff only worked for Starman until it worked for me as well, so how do we know that, you know, the Green Lantern ring did only work for Alan Scott, but well, now it's working for her, like the staff worked for me after Starman. So, you know, I don't know, she could be an imposter. But after the breakfast and pancakes that I kind of spoke about earlier, Courtney goes to summer school, and it turns out that Yolanda got enrolled there anyway. Which is, you know, kind of sucks, because she got the grades anyway, but her parents just put her there to keep her out of trouble. I mean, my god, could you imagine? We see Isaac Bowen as well for the registration, be like, I'm here. Like, it was quite edgy, but, you know, I think that's still trying to seed along to you guys that, you know, don't forget Cindy's plan at the Injustice Unlimited at the end of last episode, and how he still isn't happy, especially after what happened to his mother, his father, excuse me for the freaking notification, but yeah, you get what they're trying to plant here. But I want to move on to the other kind of trickling along storyline, and that is Rick still bringing more food for Grundy. So this time he brings a bunch of pizzas. I don't know how you're affording this, Rick, man. That must be kind of expensive. He gets called by Beth in the meantime, who's heard that there's a new superhero in town. Obviously, they're quite eager to meet this new Green Lantern, who's a legacy. But that is when Rick turns around to see if Grundy is there. And actually does turn out, not that he realizes in this moment, that Grundy is there, because you see his perspective through the trees. Now, the only thing I'm going to say here, because this is a nitpick, but I'm sorry, Grundy is hulking. Those trees aren't exactly massively dense and thick, so how did he not see him there? I hate to be that guy, but he would have seen him there. Grundy, I'm sorry you can't hide behind a little skinny tree, but I suppose Rick still didn't spot you. So, Grundy, this confirms it. He can go on special ops stealth covert missions. Like, it's 100% confirmed now. He can blend behind trees. On a more serious note, I still love what they're cooking here. I mean, it's such a twist from, it's not a massive twist, but it's obviously the opposite from last season in terms of how compassionate Rick is being in this moment. You might argue that he has another angle, but I think, as I said in my episode 1 review, the way I'm looking at this for now is that he sees that Grundy was viewed as a monster, weaponized as one, and maybe he even relates with that because people assume things about him. Granted, Grundy did obviously kill, but you know, there's two perspectives to that. Maybe he didn't have a choice, maybe he was taken advantage of. Grundy isn't the most intellectual being, obviously, and then we have that scene from last episode where Rick was just assumed that he cheated on the test. You know what I mean? Maybe he can identify how people just, you know, slump things off on them, and he wants to kind of make sure that Grundy isn't causing any more trouble, obviously. There's a lot lot of nuance there that I can feel and vibe that they're getting into, and I really do wonder where the hell this is going to go. For example, an idea is maybe they'll really need the brute strength of Grundy and Our Man combined to maybe fight Eclipso or the Shade or whatever they're going up against. I can see that might be where it's going, because in any other factors that I can predict, what other use will Grundy have? In the meantime, we can see that Zeke has indeed upgraded Stripesy's flamethrower, which was teased in that first episode, but I want to move on to Pat with Jade. Now, this is where they're getting into all the Green Lantern, well, just making sure that the lantern works, because it was obviously a bit cracked, and, well, she doesn't really need it, to be honest. He's a bit confused initially because, you know, he's like, but the ring worked that entire time? That's a bit strange, because according to what I know, Alan had to recharge the ring once a day using the lantern, but maybe I'm remembering wrong, but that's because, you know, if you know a bit about Jenny or Jade from the comics, she doesn't require it in the same way that Alan Scott had to do that. She is actually born like this, and I'm wondering how much they're going to get into that. Hopefully they will, but I guess it doesn't matter massively, but they do make it apparent in this episode that she doesn't actually need the lantern. She's still got to use the ring anyway, I suppose. That's another thing of what I mean. She technically doesn't even need the ring, but I think they're kind of keeping in that, oh, she can emulate her abilities through the ring, but the battery is unneeded. Pat fills her in about how the lantern reacts off her emotions and her father's emotions, and it can create anything that you will it to. Just think of something in your head, and I love how she thought of her younger brother and his car, so that's the little construct she initially made. But we will revisit this in a moment, but let's go back to Cindy's mother, because this is obviously following that moment at the beginning where obviously Eclipso is somehow in some way hijacked a part of her and starts those seeds of doubt and corruption. So we hear Eclipso taunting her, saying you'll never escape her. He keeps trying to taunt her, saying you almost had your old life back. You want to get back to who you were before, don't you? And I love how you see the little gremlin Eclipso silhouette with his gleaming eyes in the reflection of the knife. Now, we haven't actually seen Eclipso like you are seeing on this poster right now in an episode, but this is the closest you've got to him so far. This is a nice way to tee it up. As I say, slow burner, but trust me, I think marinating something slowly in the background like this is only best served for when you do finally get that, well, meal served to you, and trust me, it is most certainly worth the wait. We see the little Eclipso light glow in her eye once again, just as he's telling her to kill Cindy. Now, we are going to bench this till that very ending of the episode, but up next, ladies and gentlemen, how about Jonathan Cake as Richard Swift? He rolls into town in his 1967 car, I believe it was, as he said later on. He knocks on Barbara Whitmore's office, and he is very interested in that little kind of archive place, if you remember, where Cindy got. It was William Zarek's kind of, it's like the artifact room, the wizard's artifact room, but it had kind of other ISA artifacts in there, I believe, as well. And he is very interested, posing himself as this kind of antiques dealer or whatever. And I just, you know, what more can I say other than what I've said in my non-spoiler review? I love his presence. I think he's so prim and proper in all the perfect ways that, you know, really personify the character. I just think he's a scene stealer. You're always intrigued when you see him and the way he's operating, and he's not totally villainous, yet there's something very ominous and something you don't quite trust about him. Obviously, because we know he's not exactly the greatest character in the world in terms of a beacon of hope and good or anything, but you get my point. I think it was done very, very well. Barbara's like really creeped out by this. It's just overall very eerie, and I couldn't have loved it anymore. And he basically leaves a little contact card for Barbara to get back to him when she learns a little bit more about that, you know, ISA kind of archive room. At this point in the episode, we cut back to the garage with Pat and everybody kind of just clapping as they see that Jenny is projecting the car again. Everyone's super impressed. Obviously, this is kind of a cool moment because the only legacy we've got really is Rick. Obviously, he's the son of Our Man himself. So seeing another legacy is really cool. But obviously, we've already talked into Stargirl's, or should I say Courtney's, envious feelings here. She's got her wires crossed a little bit. I really enjoyed the conversation between Pat and her because he's trying to remind her and how her superpower is seeing the good in other people, but for some reason she can't seem to see it in Jenny. And that's the issue with the very line she said, how can I not see that? Everyone sees it. I mean, she's perfect and she's a superhero's daughter. And then there was kind of another twist on that because Pat's like, no, she was everything you were. So yeah, just another great Pat and Courtney scene. Now in this moment, Pat is gets called by Barbara. We all know why, but that leads him to go away, and then this whole kind of situation with the lantern battery to unfold. In that moment when Courtney was saying, "You're all anyone could ever want in a member of the JSA, you're the real deal, Jenny," that causes her emotions to really get kind of quite triggered in that moment, and obviously that links to her powers. The emotional spectrum of a Green Lantern is what allows them to cast their abilities, their constructs. She reveals all she wanted out of this ring is to be able to find her brother. She kind of inadvertently got led to the new JSA. This isn't really what she really wanted. And as her emotions are building up and building up, it looks like the Lantern is going to self-implode. Whilst all this is happening, I love how Pat deliberately went in there, bumped into the Shade, because he wanted, I kind of like the balls that Pat has, because at the end of the day, this is a very formidable guy here, and he just wants to kind of scout him out. Like, you could tell that front Pat was putting on, but I kind of really liked that character moment for him, because you clearly saw Richard Swift, the Shade here, just being like, really kind of turning his nose up at Pat here, but Pat knows a little bit more about him than he does about Pat in this moment. It was kind of just like a almost Wild West standoff moment, gauging each other out without actually drawing the pistols, if you know what I mean. But this scene didn't really last too long, because you saw the kids running with a massive glowing lantern battery in the middle of Blue Valley, which is kind of risky if I'm being honest, but I guess they just wanted to get it away from, they said they wanted to get it away from people, but, like, arguably they're taking it down the Blue Valley High Street, which could be a bit worse. Isn't the garage kind of a safe place? I guess maybe if it's next to a load of other buildings, someone could have been in that. So I'm just trying to isolate any nitpicks, but I guess it is understandable. They realize in this moment that Jenny is the lantern, not actually necessarily the battery itself. So that's why the ring worked when she put it on, because she is the one who is charging it. She can absorb the energy. So it's kind of, that's what I mean by like them adding their stamp onto the Jenny and Jade from the comic. So the idea here was for her to absorb the Green Lantern battery's energy into herself, so it would stop the lantern battery from blowing up. It starts coming down initially, but then it blasts everyone back. It seems like there's a massive green echo wave that goes throughout Blue Valley, and that is when it reveals that she is high in the sky, and she kind of floats down very slowly, engulfed in this kind of Green Lantern energy. And I really like this moment because everyone's in awe. She's like, "Hey guys, I can fly," and I really hope, I know wires and stuff like that are kind of impractical to get people to fly, but I really hope that the more we see Jenny, the more they allow her to fly. Because since you've shown her fly, I want to see her fly when she feels comfortable enough to actually be in combat with her ring on and stuff like that. I hope they don't find reasons, you know what I'm trying to talk about here, like where they might be in a situation, but because they didn't want to put the actor in wires and whatnot to fly, they didn't do it. I hope they do deliver upon her utilizing her powers when she can in the future scenes we see her in. Once again, very awe-inspiring music in this scene. I felt like it was kind of back-chilling magical, at least for me. I really hope that you guys kind of got the same vibes there. But after that kind of awesome Green Lantern moment, you know, we go to the next day, and Barbara reveals to Courtney that when they all woke up, Jenny was gone. So it's just like, oh, she's dipped. I'm guessing to go find her brother maybe, but like that is as far as we kind of know or what is going on with Jenny right now. So I thought, as far as that goes, a solid introduction into the arrival of a live-action Green Lantern in a long, long time. Like, I honestly feel like, you know, putting it into the Stargirl show and the upper kind of caliber of quality it has over that of the, you know, The Flash and some other of the old kind of procedural CW shows, mwah, beautiful. Meanwhile as well, Pat is looking into the ISA files to kind of double down on his suspicion on that is, you know, that Richard Swift is the Shade that he knew of the old days in the JSA, and he's thinking in this moment when the Watchers match, crap. So Courtney comes down in this moment. He tries to keep it from her for now. But when Courtney is saying, you know, funnily enough, like, you know what? Look, I've listened. Courtney Whitmore first, daughter, sister, friend. And if a villain comes up, then it'll be Stargirl. But that is when, lo and behold, she was kind of right. The Shade is in town. He is bad news. And yeah, as I said, I love how giddy Courtney was because it just kind of, it probably made her feel so right in why she was being vigilant this whole time. Because lo and behold, a bloody Injustice Society, or once Injustice Society of America member has arrived to town. And yeah, he's not a rookie. But this is at the end of the episode now where Cindy returns home, the spoiled brat Cindy, saying, "Mom, I'm hungry. Again, feed me." It's just like, oh, God damn it. Like, Poor woman. It's, you know, not only Dragon King's slave, but Cindy's slave. No wonder she really wanted out there. But obviously with the seeds of corruption that Eclipso was sowing in her mind, this is where she gives into it, equips the knife to kill Cindy. She initially pulls out a shift blade. She tries to say, Mum, please don't. And this is what I mean about Cindy in terms of Meg DeLacy here. I love how she does offer that vulnerable side to her. You could tell that she didn't want that to happen to her mother. Like, she would rather not. Even if she acts like a dick all the time, there is this little girl of Cindy, that one that we know before the whole Dragon King thing that happened, who is a nice person, but, like, obviously it's very, very deep down. But that's all it needed. Like, Eclipso was waiting until, like, he had that stamp of approval, so once she gave in to trying to murder her, that allowed Eclipso to kind of burst out and take control or host of Cindy in this moment. Very similar to Bruce Gordon in episode 1 with how he goes like half undead. You have that like red look in the eyes. He says, sinful humans so easily corrupted. And so Eclipso absorbs her very matter into the black diamond and like literally completely absorbed. So that is exactly what happened with the younger girl. He says that it was delicious. Cindy does break back through though, and she is absolutely almost disgusted and bewildered with the situation because I don't think she realizes what she was playing with here. I think she believes she's in control, but Eclipso is completely undermining her, really trying to play into, oh no, of course, Cynthia, of course, I am sorry, you are in control, I am only here to serve. It's just like, are you really gonna be gullible there, Cindy? Like, if you couldn't tell already, he's just kind of he's like riding off the back of you. The more and more he will absorb these people, if you will, the more powerful he will get, and the more Cindy is going to be kind of not having so much control as what she once did in moments like this. What I do love about Eclipso is he's very involved as much as he actually isn't physically. I love the interactions and dialogue between him and Cindy. Cindy trying to keep a hold on it, but she really doesn't at the same time. I think it's really, yes, I do acknowledge it's a slow burner, but you know, trust me, like as I've said, I've seen 6 episodes. It really does cook nicely. Like, you're gonna be going downstairs, smelling that beautiful smell in the kitchen, and when it comes to eating, you will eat good, and I feel like you already are. You're getting your appetizers right now. You're getting good little juicy bits every now and again, but it gets coming stronger. With the waves just keep coming stronger as the episodes unfold. So be patient. If you're finding like, oh, I need more, I wanted more, you will get that, and when you do get it, it is so good. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is my breakdown for Stargirl episode 2. There's not really too much else to go on about, so I'm dying to hear your thoughts on this. What did you think of the Green Lantern adaptation and how we really got a lot more of that this episode with Constructs, her freaking flying, but also then what did you think of Eclipso worming his way, corrupting people, and even kind of taking advantage of Cindy, kind of without her realizing it? And of course, Richard Swift, the Shade. Did you like his introduction? And have you got any theories going already? But like this video if you did enjoy, of course. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to never miss out on one of these update videos. As always, links are in the top pinned comment. Click show more. You can follow me on Twitter and all the other kind of links there as well to Discord and whatnot. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow starlings in the next video. Goodbye.